In the meantime, I've been seeing nothing but Kim Davis.
Yeah.
She's pretty much been my Facebook page priority, I think. And that was a little bit of a crazy train ride.
Yeah. It's been a lot of drama.
Yeah, I find it's really interesting how dishonest that the conservative Christians are when it comes to legal issues like these. You know what I mean? Because they'll talk about, like, for example, she was talking very much about how, this was an issue of her conscience. And yet the more we got into it, the more we began to see that she was actually pressuring her workers, the people that were subject to her in her office, to not issue these licenses. And then the claim was, well, my name is on the license. But when you really look at the history of this issue of gay marriage and the religious opposition, this isn't just about personal conscience. I mean, Proposition 8 in California was not about personal conscience, right? I mean, if it boils down to my personal conscience requires me to do everything that I can, including use the law to keep other people from exercising their rights, what you're talking about is just implementing your religious restrictions and requirements onto people using the law, and that's not okay. You know, you're free to not get gay married, and if you can get a religious exception to not participate in anything that brings about a gay marriage, that's one thing. But like when you're baking a cake, that's not a gay cake, it's just a cake. So you bake the cake, you sell it to a patron, you don't have to worry about what they're going to do with it, as long as they're not poisoning someone with it. It's not a problem for you. All you did was bake a cake. And when it comes to the idea of someone else getting married, it's not your religious requirement to go out and try to create a proposition in order to stop someone from exercising rights that are guaranteed to them under the Constitution. And I don't think the idea that this was finally challenged and somebody finally brought it forward to a point where we had to examine this issue doesn't mean that you created some sort of legislation from the bench. It just means that you understood that now that this is being requested, we're looking at it and we're saying, there is no reason to deny this right to people. If we're going to allow something under the law, we do have the concept of equity under the law according to the 14th Amendment. And you can't just arbitrarily penalize one group or another to say, hey, X group gets these rights and this other group we're going to say doesn't get these rights, just arbitrarily. You can apply that when there is a reasonable argument or for a burden upon the state, for example, or a problem that's going to be caused socially that would be so huge that, yes, we're going to have a problem here, and so we need to restrict this. So, for example, we don't allow 6-year-olds to drive automobiles, and that's a reasonable restriction on age. But when it comes to something like getting married, there really was no undue burden on the state to just issue a gender-neutral license. It's a very simple thing. So there was no real argument against it. And the fact that they've worked so hard to strip people of that right and to make sure nobody gets to exercise that right, much like they do with women's reproductive rights, shows that this is not merely about what they need to do or not do in their personal life. They want to enforce this and push this onto other people and control other people's lives using their religious requirements executed through the law. And that's messed up. I mean, that is really messed up.
Well said. I think it's really disingenuous, too, that they're framing this as a religious rights issue, that her religious rights are being trampled. And I think the best analogy I saw to that was, it's been going around Facebook, there's a little sign that says, it's got a little California DMV symbol, and it says, sorry, due to the sincerely held beliefs of the Muslim clerk, we will no longer be issuing driver's licenses to women.
Right.
Sorry. The Christians say this is a matter of religious rights, but I bet they wouldn't respect that person's religious rights and use the same argument in that case.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. And the other thing that's interesting is I was watching or rewatching The Revisionaries, which if people haven't seen it, it's a little bit of past history, but it's still impacting Texas schools. It has to do with the Texas School Board. It's a very good film, very interesting film. I don't think I've seen anybody watch it that wasn't shocked at what they saw. But the Texas School Board issue back when, the whole time I'm watching it, they're going through and they're trying to make this curriculum language saying, we need to look at the strengths and weaknesses of evolution, and the people that are writing the curriculum and involved in as experts on the curriculum are coming forward and saying, we don't understand what you mean by the weaknesses. Like, what are the weaknesses? We don't get it. We don't know what that represents. We don't even know what information we're supposed to supply there. There aren't weaknesses. So they changed it to like evaluate and analyze or something like that. And the whole time they're doing it, they're saying, this isn't about our religious convictions. This is just about like open, critical thought in the classroom and examination of scientific theory in the classroom. And we want to have this open conversation where the children are free to ask questions. We want freedom, academic freedom.
How could you be against freedom?
Well, the whole thing, though, is I'm watching it and I'm saying, if this isn't about your religion, why is this the only theory where you want to apply this language?
Yeah.
Why don't you apply this language and use other theories? Like, you're clearly targeting this. So when they give their little spiel, it sounds all pretty. But then you look at what's going on, and they are targeting this one thing. So they have this one issue that they're targeting, and it demonstrates that they are biasly looking at the one thing that conflicts with their religion. So this is completely about their religion.